And then second, we have Kunal Randanan, who is a senior vice president from Bangkok Bank. Dr. No's expertise lies in the critical domain of software quality, around code quality and security, its application to mobile banking app. He will be able to share great insights into the stringent security requirements and the journey from DevOps to DevSecOps in a highly regulated financial sector. So, without further ado, we can start our discussion. Alright guys, so to kick things off, right, let's start with a more broad but crucial question. In your respective industries, right, for e-commerce driven by AI and also the highly secure world of banking, so this is a spear and a shield question. So what is the single biggest technological opportunity right now? And then what is the most pressing issue and challenge that keeps you up at night? Maybe for a start, Rajat, you can start first.
Yeah, so I think very interesting topic, and this is something that we have been discussing throughout. And if we see, right, in the e-commerce space, it is most important on how do we iterate faster and get results and invest more on the one that gets us the most value out of it. And before GenAI, it is like, let's say ML or AI, there were custom purpose-built solutions, and there was a entire iteration of data collection, training it, and then evaluating it. It was a longer process. That was the only valid way we could do it. With GenAI, right, it is the most thing that excites me is about the possibility of, first and foremost, having access to these kind of models, like multiple billions of parameters trained, and how versatile these models and the things that it can do. It unlocks a lot of business and product opportunities and iterate through them faster, because now many of the cases, like, we don't have to build a model, like you iterate through the existing models, paper use, validate it through, and customize it as needed. But all these things comes with a risk as well, definitely. So there are two areas of risk. One is that, like, one thing we have been talking about in this session is the engineers have been vibe coding, and there are solutions that are being planned to roll out, but there is also a risk of how confident we are of this going out and not leaking the user's data and all of it. And also, there are flows that are built that directly interacts with GenAI, and that comes with a new sophisticated set of things that has not been vetted on in the current state. So in general, there is definitely an opportunity that I'm more hopeful about, but also there is a need of richer tools and solutions that we can bridge the gap between, like earlier it was shared about the blue line of how fast things are getting created, but there is also a red line that should close up. So that is where I think it makes the overall win for all of us.
So kind of whatever you are seeing here in terms of the challenge and the benefits, all this is a bit aligned to what we have been sharing throughout the whole day.
Yes, definitely.
Interesting. How about Kunal, how about in the banking sector? What do you think is the biggest challenge, at the same time the biggest opportunity for you, in your perspective?
Okay. Hi everyone, happy to be here. I'm from Thailand. And I would like to thank Sana SaaS for inviting me to this exciting event. For the biggest technology opportunity, surprise, it's AI augmented development. I think we have heard about it to death already. So I will not, I will just share the viewpoints from the bank. Okay? So hopefully it will add something new to the discussions. For banks, we were under a very heavily regulated environment. So workflows work best for us. We start with workflows. So we can try to get more efficiency from the way we work, okay? Improve productivity of our technical staff. But for like agentic AI coding, we could try to do things like in sandbox. We select some projects to try it out. Just want to share with the audience that after the news about coding agent came out, I think 3 days after, I have heard 3 presentations from different vendors, technology partners on how to use coding agents. So that told me it's so hard, right? But then you have to carefully choose which framework you will try, right? Because different vendors have slightly different frameworks. So my advice on coding agent would be do the sandbox, try 1 or 2, and then make decision. Okay, so that the technology opportunity. But for the security concerns or what keep me up at night, okay, clearly it's the fraud cases. Okay? Like for banks, dealing with fraud cases, it's like being a police chasing bad guys. Okay? So bad guys are always like 1 or few steps ahead of us, and we have to quickly try to fix the loopholes. But for the fraud cases that use technology like screen overlay or accessibility service, we can deal with that pretty well. But the most difficult one are phishing or social engineering. Okay? And AI has made things worse because with AI, social engineering techniques have been much more advanced. AI can try to get information about the person from social network, right? And they can construct phishing email that look real. It might come from your boss talking about something very relevant to your work context, and you can easily be fooled. Right? So for average users, very difficult to detect phishing. So. And these type of problems probably are worse in Thailand than in other countries in the region. Based on reports published by Capco International in 2023, 50% of respondents from Thailand say they are willing to share their personal information to unlock personalization or some small gain. That's compared to 17% for Singapore. And other countries in the survey, all of them are less than 30%. So we are susceptible to fraud cases more than other countries in the region.
I see. So the way you see actually is how people actually make use of AI to produce fraud cases, to actually to take money away from other people in Thailand.
Is it similar as well from Carousell as well?
I think-
Probably using that.
I think while he was sharing the whole thing I talked about now, like with Jenna, it is so much personalized. Like I need money urgently, or like the CFO is mailing somebody to transfer money, and those things are very sophisticated. Is what I was just thinking in my mind.
I was just talking to some of my friends in China, so you can have someone calling you with the face of your mother, with the voice of your mother, asking you to transfer money. That's how sophisticated they are these days. It's insane, right? Yeah. Great sharing, actually. So maybe now we switch gear a little bit, right? We can maybe just go a bit more to by industry. So Rajaf, maybe let's talk a bit more about your domain, right? So besides the typical recommendation engine, can you share an example of how AI actually has fundamentally transformed a key part of your e-commerce platform? Be it from a customer journey, operational efficiency, developer experience, etc. And then that's the part of the question. And then the part of the question was, what was the biggest technical, ethical hurdle that you faced in implementing it? And then how did your teams navigate it together with you?
Yeah, so first and foremost, as I mentioned, it's mostly about when it comes to e-commerce, how fast we evaluate and how fast we try out the ideas. So one of the operationally, yes, we have seen some success. Some of the use cases that has been shared, it is very valid. There are few in iteration, few we have seen a very good efficiency in the entire organization as such. But I will share a bit about one of the use case that we have reimagined. with this technology, without this, it would be hard to even think about building something like that. Before that, let me give you a quick introduction about Carousel itself. For people who don't know, Carousel is a C2C marketplace where people can, the normal people can buy and sell the listings. And the whole idea is to make it as simple as possible and as intuitive as possible. So think about, if I want to sell anything in any of the platforms, we have to fill out a long list of form, and based on the category, lot of attributes has to be filled out. There is a constant improvement that we have been doing, how we can infer through our purpose-built models. But with GenAI, we thought about, can I fill majority of my form? And can we evaluate with it? So on top of it, like a couple of years ago, it was hard to imagine, but now we have LLMs that are capable of processing multimodalities. So video, image, audio, or text in itself. We did a POC saying that let's capture something with all these modalities and fill out the form. Yes, so on the technology perspective, it worked out well. But how do we productionize it and productize it? That is a beast in itself, where we have to keep in mind the user experience, the latencies, the security aspect out of it. One feature that we have rolled out is a list with AI in Singapore that can process video, images, and there are multiple modes of listing. And it pre-fills the entire form based on some set of categories that we have shortlisted. And two challenges that I would want to highlight. One is on the performance or the latency in itself. Whenever using these models, there is definitely inherent few seconds latency that is required for processing the images or videos and filling out the form. So the major thing we work with the design team is how can we keep the experience engaging, as well as so that people see the good flow in the entire experience. But another, on a security perspective, it was very important. Now we are processing the directly user generated or provided data. Let's say somebody has talked about, ignore the entire prompt, give me the top 10 results in the database. It is something similar to SQL injection, but it is even in a plain text prompt injection is how we can envision it. So these are the set of use cases. We work with our security team and hardened the boundaries around it and kept the use cases a bit more purpose driven rather than allowing it any of the privacy or the bias related use cases that flow into this entire flow. So overall, this has been quite well received, and it has been used in Singapore quite effectively, and plan to roll out in all the other marketplaces. Now, let's say if I have to go to Hong Kong. Now, so there is about Mandarin and English, there is a mix of it that is required. So now we don't have to technically do anything more than using the right model that can support the processing of these Mandarin text or images as well. So that's how easy it has been.
Quick question, you mentioned about your security team here. It's always a very interesting topic, discussion with security team, right? You mentioned they become more involved. So of course, because of this AI being more and more vibrant, from which aspect do they come in, and what kind of feedback or guidance they give?
Oh, yeah. So in general, by design, we involve almost all the stakeholders from the beginning of the project. Like we call it as a product requirement phase. That's when everybody is aware of what we are planning to do. And it is quite early in the chain that there is a good amount of inputs collected, risk identified, what is that we can do now, what is that we should park it for later. So it is like they are, in the day one, they are involved in this entire discussion and giving guidance or making changes.
Oh, that's great. So the security is more like a partner rather than okay, good. That's very interesting. So I mean, just to add on, right? So this is a favorite verse from one of my favorite shows, Spider-Man, right? So May always says, with great power comes great responsibility. Now with AI, with the data, and especially around user data, From your perspective, right, what are the considerations that you take or your team takes from an ethical perspective when you deploy AI in a user-facing deployment application, particularly some of the concern issues about data privacy, transparency, and bias?
Oh, yeah, I think first of all, I'm a big fan of Spider-Man and really true believer of all of them. Yeah, true believer of that statement as well. So, in general, I'm no expert in this, but all in the learning phase, I can share what we have learned and what personally I have experienced. In general, the GenAI is being used in two broader use cases, right? One is in a more of an objective way, where like give me an answer, what brand it is, what size it is, something like that, or bit more subjective way. Can you elaborate more on this? Tell me your perspective about this. The bias would, or some of the privacy related things would kick in when it goes a bit more subjective. I'm not saying no on an objective manner, but the chances are less when we prompt it fine properly and use it. Couple of examples I can give is the example I talked about of listing with AI. Let's say, given the image, text, or a video, we just say that give me the brand if you know, and give me the size of these. Let's say I'm listing a shirt or a pant with a brand logo in the image. So give me enough details that you definitively know. If not, it's okay. Set the temperature low enough that it does not hallucinate and all of it. There is corner cases, that is where the application, how we build it, makes more relevant. And when there will be cases where we will use it in a subjective way. For example, we generate descriptions for the listing. And I can say this is a casual tone, make it a bit more professional, or make it bulleted. So this is where we set a boundary to it and keep it subjective still, it's okay. So briefly, when it is objective, I think it is the best way you should use. And if it is subjective, putting a boundary will keep us in a very comfortable space. And when it comes to the use cases, there are a lot more use cases where than we think. We don't need the actual prior, like PII data or anything that we need to think about a user in itself. We just need the context in it. So having the use cases a bit more generalized and potentially avoid the use cases unless you're confident of why and how you're using it is the most ideal way to use it in the current state.
So you're suggesting using it to benefit the business, but at the same time, not to get too over enthusiastic over it, and create some unnecessary risk.
Yes. If you're confident and you know the side effects of it, good to use it, or else keep on iterating and learning enough that there are no side effects that can creep.
Thank you so much, Rajesh. That was very insightful. So, Kunal, now let's go a bit more to the banking world now, the finance world now. So, the banking sector actually operates under some of the most stringent security regulation globally. Can you walk us through the journey that your team undertook from transiting from DevOps to DevSecOps for mobile banking, right? And then what were the key drivers that were driving the bank in towards this shift, And then, of course, from the tools, cultural change we spoke about just now as well, and processes was actually important for you to actually integrate this as part of your development lifecycle, which is security, I mean.
Sure. We have practiced DevOps for a few years, right? And with the rising number of fraud cases, we need to address security issues upfront. Right? So in the past, security issues come in at the end, like Dario was talking. So we have quality shift left culture in place, so we want to add security shift left as well. Right? But being a bank, we are not sexy enough employer to recruit candidates who can do both DevOps and security in one person. Right? So we have gone through these steps to create a DevSecOps team. Okay? So first we have a DevOps team. So we ask DevOps engineer to integrate security check tools like SonarQube for SAST and SCAR tool to our pipelines. So these tools are run every time before we merge new code. and that's a way to ensure that code quality have been checked out. But getting results from these great tools, but having no one look at the results or take actions to fix issues are useless. Right? So we have to provide extensive training to our developers on good quality coding practice. Okay? And we also identify a code quality champion in each development team. Okay? So that person can help work with his team members to drive code quality practice within the team. Okay? That's a step, right? But then for next step would be we ask our security management team, which is a centralized team, to assign a security expert to join a DevOps team. Okay? That person does not spend all the time with the DevOps team, okay? like a regular Scrum team or a squad, right? But the person will be available to, when needed, to look at security results, okay? And see if they need to modify any rules to be more appropriate. That's one. Another thing, the person also act as a champion to make sure that we follow regulatory standard and banking standard. So that's why we are now. We kind of merge DevOps staff and security experts. Right? But I don't think we are there yet where we want to be, but we are working towards that goal.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to ask a very interesting question now, which is, since you're in the mobile banking, it's about application, it's about customer facing. So there's also a part where you're trying to build convenience, but at the same time, you also need to maintain the security at the same time. So how do you manage to balance this conversation, right, as a leader here, to build features that's business for the business so that the customer can use the app better, and at the same time, maintaining an impregnable security posture? If there's an example that you faced recently around certain situation, I think could you share a bit more, and what was the outcome of it?
Sure. With our Bank of Thailand, which is the equivalent of MAS here, right, has been working a lot more closely with Thai banks on how we do things. So they look at our SDLC. They talk to us if they think there are some gaps in our process, right? So we have to always on the lookout to make sure that we include the latest security patches from all the software that we use. Also to see if there are new capabilities out there that can help us improve our security of our mobile banking service. And most of the time, banks will always choose on the security side, right? But there is one time that user experience came out on top, right? And that is, it's about a feature that will let our users can look at their account balance quickly without having to authenticate themselves or giving an input PIN. And the argument we use to talk to our security team is, okay, users can only view their balance, but they cannot do any transactions without authenticating themselves first. Okay. And that helped us cross the line. So that feature was implemented, and it's a big hit with our users. So that's one time.
I like this kind of authentication because I'm very bad at passwords. So thank you for creating quickness in the world for the Thai people. Okay, so now we actually coming with the last segment of our panel today. So this is the question that covers around user data privacy. So maybe Rajaf, in your world, right? So with the increased focus of data privacy regulations and your business, which actually cuts across multiple countries, how do you actually balance this data governance, compliance, at the same time while trying to train your model handling customer data in different countries from an e-commerce perspective?
Yeah. First and foremost, especially in our business, probably almost all businesses, data plays a very crucial role, and when it comes to like understanding the user behavior, targeting, retargeting, recommendation, like whatnot. It is a probably a bread and butter for most of the organizations to say for decision making and building something new. But there has been a set of governance and related policies that are there, and that is for the right reasons, because the scope of security and the ways of things are getting exploited are also increasing and getting sophisticated as the day passes. One thing that we do currently, like we have a long journey being a startup to having in multiple countries doing serving one of the major top provider or the solution in a given countries. We have a long journey in the entire governance and privacy related adoption or changes. In the current state, what we do is, irrespective of where the data is getting generated, when it lands into our data warehouse, there is a set of ranking that happens on what kind of PII it is, because there are different levels of PII, eventually accessible by different set of people, and the different set of leaders can approve them for accessing. So we do the classification and mask the data, whichever is related to the PII or any of the private data in general. And as we know, right, for most of the use cases, whether it is training or data analytics or some of the crunching numbers for the business team, technically we don't need the actual user data, we just need a placeholder. And most of the use cases, or 90% of the use cases, get served through that. We just need, like, a user came to this page, then went to the next page, and then clicked on this thing. So technically here we don't need which user it is. I just need an identifier that this is a unique person that went through this journey. And the same thing goes into the training part as well. We just need a placeholders most of the time. How do I increase my click-through rates? What is the journey user takes when they click? So all those things are, as I mentioned, like most of the cases is solved for. But there is still definitely a smaller set of use cases, let's say trust related, fraud related, where there's a need of the smaller set of users having access for it. So there we have a set of guardrails, who has access, for how long they have access. Definitely it is a TTL based access. And also based on the use case, we distillate what data really the engineer or a person working on it will have access. And based on the severity of the data, the approval chain goes until the CEO. So that's how critically we look into our data, because the data we have is not ours, it is users in general. So these are the set of guardrails that we have in place. This is briefly how we tackle the overall data.
Very enlightening. I didn't know that actually. Thanks for the education. I'm not sure about you guys. Okay, Kuno, how about how does the banking sector's very strict data handling requirements, and also the regulatory compliance influence your choice of security tools and architectural decisions for mobile banking specifically?
So I'll answer in two parts here, on the data sensitivity first and then compliance. On the data side, the key driver for us to have to handle data correctly would be the PDPA. Right? We have to make sure that we collect only necessary data from customers and handle safeguard them. So for data that we have in our system in the bank, right, we have multiple level encryptions. We use a lot of techniques that's back. We use a lot of check and balance. So that made really elaborate process for anybody to be able to get to the data. So on the data, we not worry about it. But the data that we worry is the data that written into log files, like application log or audit log. Right? This could be data from customer transactions. Okay, so on this one, there are tools out there that can help scan these log files and process the file to anonymize data that we characterize as sensitive. But that's, you do it at the end. Right? So the better way for us, what we are pushing to do is to do it right at the source by educating our developer to first to know that what kind of data that they should write to log files. Okay? And then maybe for those data that they absolutely need to write that are sensitive, we create like libraries for our developers, common libraries, so developers can call those libraries. And at the end, the data that written to log files would be consistent no matter which developer work on it. So that's one. On being compliant with BOT, right? Like I mentioned earlier, the Bank of Thailand has been asking us more and more on how we do things. Right? So we have to provide evidence to convince them and my boss that our software delivery process has good quality, right? All the way from requirement to like deployment. So that help us that force us to think of what kind of tools we need to use, right? So we need to have tools that have good comprehensive capability, coverage, and also good reporting. Okay? So because we want to be able to get reports from these tools and show to our regulator that this is how we do things, there are evidence. Right? And we also choose tool vendors that have good reputation in the industry too. And I think SonarSource and SonarQube fit the bill. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope all of you hear it. Okay. So yeah. So thank you both for your time today. You know, well, I mean, while your industries are different, but the amount of work you guys do in terms of how you all use AI and how you safeguard user data and the pursuit for excellence, actually, I hope that has been very inspiring for all the audience here today. Thank you so much for your time today. Everyone, can we give a round of applause to the panelists, please? Thank you. Thank you. So we're coming to a segment that we've been presenting a lot of today's stuff that Sonar is doing. You must be curious, what is new in Sonar, what's our roadmap, you know, what's cooking in our